There comes a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when the person who thought they had more time suddenly feels panic in their chest. Not loud panic, the deeper kind. The kind that arrives late at night when your name crosses their mind, when memories of your warmth begin replaying without permission, when they realize your presence was never ordinary. It was comforting, intoxicating, unforgettable. And here is what makes this powerful. The moment you stop reaching, stop over-explaining, stop making yourself endlessly available, your energy changes. You become magnetic in a way words cannot describe. Calm becomes seductive, mystery becomes beautiful, confidence becomes impossible to ignore. Suddenly, the one who was uncertain starts feeling certain. The one who was distant starts feeling pulled closer, because deep down, they know something terrifying. If they wait too long, they may lose you forever. Another heart may recognize what they failed to fully appreciate. Another soul may value your softness, your fire, your feminine grace, and the quiet strength that made you rare from the beginning. And that thought shakes them. It wakes them up. It pushes them toward truth. So if lately you've felt a strange shift in energy, if silence feels charged, if your intuition keeps whispering that something is changing behind the scenes, listen closely, because what feels like distance may actually be desire building. What feels like quiet may be courage gathering, and what feels like the end may be the exact moment they decide to take the next step, because losing you is no longer a risk they're willing to take. There is a strange truth about human connection. People often do not fully understand the value of what they have until they feel the silence of its absence. When you were there, offering your warmth, your attention, your softness, and that quiet energy that made them feel seen, they may have thought it would always remain. Not because they meant to take you for granted, but because familiarity can make beautiful things feel permanent. Your messages became part of their routine. Your care became something they unconsciously leaned on. Your voice, your presence, your feminine grace, all of it slowly became woven into the fabric of their everyday life. And then something changed. You changed. You stopped pouring endlessly into a space that was not pouring back. You became quieter. You protected your peace. You pulled your energy inward. You chose dignity over chasing, silence over over-explaining, calm over emotional chaos. And in that moment, without you realizing it, you created distance. And distance has a powerful way of waking sleeping hearts. Suddenly they began noticing what was missing. The silence where your voice used to be. The emptiness where your warmth used to live. The missing spark that made ordinary days feel brighter. It hit them in quiet moments first. Late nights, lonely mornings, empty spaces in their routine. And slowly that realization grew heavier. Because your absence did not feel like the loss of attention. It felt like the loss of something meaningful, something rare, something emotionally rich. They began replaying memories, your laughter, your honesty, the way you cared deeply, the way your energy wrapped around moments and made them feel alive. They started comparing every shallow interaction around them to the depth they once had with you, and nothing measured up. That is when longing begins. Quietly, deeply, intensely. And here is what many women do not fully understand. There is incredible power in graceful distance, not coldness, not games, not pretending not to care, but the kind of distance that comes from self-respect. The kind that says, I know what I bring, and I will not beg to be valued. That energy becomes unforgettable. It carries mystery. It carries elegance. It carries quiet confidence, and confidence wrapped in softness is deeply magnetic. They feel that shift. They sense that you are no longer emotionally standing in the same place waiting for them, and suddenly fear enters their heart. Fear that what they assumed would always be there is slowly slipping away. That fear creates clarity. That clarity creates urgency. That urgency creates movement. Because when someone truly feels your absence in their soul, not just in their schedule, they begin to understand your worth in a way they never did before. Your distance did not weaken your connection. It revealed your value. And now, in the silence where you once stood, something deep inside them has awakened the realization that losing you would be a loss they may never recover from. There is a moment that changes everything, the moment they stop seeing you as someone who will always be there and start seeing you as someone the world could easily fall in love with. That realization is powerful, unsettling, and impossible to ignore. Because when your energy begins to shift, when you stop chasing attention, when you carry yourself with calm confidence, soft mystery, and quiet strength, something awakens in the way they look at you. They begin to see what they overlooked. Not just your beauty, but your depth. Not just your kindness, but your emotional richness. Not just your presence, but the rare way you make people feel seen, valued, and understood. Suddenly, a thought enters their mind. What if someone else recognizes all of this? What if another person notices the warmth in your heart, the elegance in your spirit, the softness in your voice, and the quiet fire in the way you carry yourself? What if another soul sees the treasure they almost let slip away? That thought lingers. It grows. It becomes impossible to shake, because deep down, they know something undeniable. People like you are rare. Real connection is rare. A woman who can be soft without being weak, loving without losing herself, graceful without pretending, and emotionally deep without becoming heavy, that kind of energy leaves a mark. And once they realize that someone else could step in and appreciate what they failed to fully honor, something shifts inside them. Their heart becomes restless. Their thoughts become louder. Their emotions become sharper. They begin imagining your smile belonging to someone else, your attention warming someone else's world, your affection being cherished by hands that understand its value. And suddenly, what once felt comfortable now feels fragile. What once felt guaranteed now feels uncertain. And uncertainty creates urgency, not from ego, but from truth. Because the fear is no longer about losing attention, it is about losing something beautiful, meaningful, and deeply irreplaceable. That is when admiration becomes intense. That is when longing grows stronger. That is when they start feeling pulled toward action. And here is what makes this so powerful. You do not need to prove your worth for this to happen. You do not need to perform, beg, or convince anyone to see your value. Your worth speaks in the way you carry your peace, in the way you protect your heart, in the way you remain warm but never desperate, soft but never small, loving but never willing to settle for less than you deserve. That quiet confidence is magnetic. It makes people notice. It makes people wonder. It makes people realize they are not the only one who could want a woman like you. And that realization lights a fire beneath hesitation. Because once they understand that another heart could cherish everything they almost lost, standing still no longer feels safe. And that is often the moment they begin moving closer, not because they suddenly changed, but because they finally understood what losing you would truly mean. There is a kind of power that never needs to raise its voice. It does not chase attention. It does not beg to be chosen. It does not shrink itself to fit inside someone else's uncertainty. It simply exists, calm, graceful, deeply rooted, and quietly unforgettable. That is the power of quiet confidence. And when you begin carrying yourself with that energy, everything changes. The way you speak changes. The way you move changes. The way you protect your peace changes. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop offering endless chances to those who treat your heart casually. You stop proving your worth in places that should have recognized it naturally, and instead you begin standing in your value with softness, dignity, and emotional strength. That kind of feminine energy is deeply magnetic, not loud, but powerful, not flashy, but captivating, not desperate, but irresistibly warm in a way that draws people closer without you ever asking them to come near. And this is the moment they begin seeing you differently. The version of you they once knew, always available, always giving, always waiting, slowly fades, and in her place stands a woman who feels mysterious, grounded, and impossible to read too easily. That mystery creates attraction. That calm creates curiosity. That confidence creates desire. Because there is something incredibly captivating about a woman who knows exactly who she is, knows what she deserves, and still remains soft-hearted rather than bitter. Your silence starts speaking louder than words. Your peace becomes attractive. Your distance becomes elegant. Your emotional control becomes seductive in the safest, most powerful sense, not through games, but through self-respect. And suddenly, they begin wondering what changed. They feel your energy shift and it unsettles them because what once felt easy to access now feels precious. What once felt certain now feels like something they could lose. That awareness makes your value rise in their eyes. They begin noticing the little things they once overlooked. Your warmth, your thoughtful nature, your emotional depth, your quiet strength, the gentle confidence in how you carry yourself. The way your presence made moments feel richer, softer, and somehow more alive. And what becomes even more powerful is that your confidence invites admiration from others too. People notice your glow. They feel your calm strength. They are drawn toward your light. And when the person who once hesitated sees that others can feel your magnetism too, their heart wakes up in a way they did not expect, because now they understand something important. Confidence wrapped in grace is rare, and rare things are never forgotten. You become more than a memory. You become the standard by which they quietly compare everyone else. That is why your quiet confidence becomes impossible to ignore, not because you demanded attention, but because you stopped needing it. Not because you chased love, but because you stood in your worth and let your energy speak for itself. And when a woman reaches that level of calm self-worth, she becomes unforgettable. The kind of presence that lingers in the mind, pulls at the heart, and quietly inspires someone to step closer before it is too late. There comes a point in every deep emotional connection when feelings become too strong to stay hidden behind silence, pride, or hesitation. A heart can only carry longing quietly for so long before it begins pushing a person toward action. And this is where everything starts to change, because when someone truly feels the weight of possibly losing you, their behavior begins speaking louder than any promise ever could. They start showing up differently. Their energy becomes intentional, their attention becomes focused, their words carry more honesty, more warmth, more meaning. What once felt uncertain begins feeling clear because fear has finally turned into realization, and realization has turned into urgency. They begin understanding that connections like yours do not come often, and if they remain passive, they may watch something rare slip completely out of their hands. That thought becomes heavy on the heart. It follows them into quiet moments. It lingers in their mind when they wake up. It whispers to them at night when everything is still and there is nothing left to distract them from truth. And truth says one thing clearly: if they care, they must move. This is when hesitation starts breaking apart. Pride becomes smaller than desire. Ego becomes weaker than emotion. Distance becomes painful. And the need to reach toward you grows stronger each day. They may begin with small steps: a thoughtful message, a genuine check-in, a sudden curiosity about your life, a deeper emotional openness they never showed before. But beneath those small gestures is something much bigger, the quiet decision in their heart that they do not want to lose you. And when that decision becomes real, effort begins naturally. Not forced effort, not temporary effort. Real effort, the kind that creates time, the kind that listens carefully, the kind that chooses honesty, the kind that becomes consistent. Because consistency is what love looks like when it is serious. They start paying attention to details. They remember little things you said. They become softer around you, more vulnerable, more emotionally present, because deep down, they know surface level connection is no longer enough. If they want you, truly want you, they must meet you where your heart lives, in depth, in sincerity, in emotional truth. And this is what many women need to hear. When someone deeply values you, you will not have to decode confusion forever. Their actions will begin answering the questions their words once left hanging. Clarity will replace mixed signals. Intention will replace inconsistency. Presence will replace distance. Because when the heart is genuinely involved, effort becomes instinctive. The desire to keep you close becomes stronger than the fear of vulnerability. And slowly, beautifully, the walls they built around their feelings begin to fall. What they once hid becomes visible. What they once resisted becomes undeniable. What they once delayed becomes urgent. because now they understand that losing you is not simply losing attention, it is losing warmth, depth, softness, passion, and a connection that touched something real inside them. And once that truth settles deeply enough in the heart, action is no longer a choice, it becomes something they simply cannot hold back anymore. Sometimes what feels like silence is not the end of a connection. It is the quiet space where truth is slowly becoming impossible to ignore. People often think love moves in obvious ways, loud ways, immediate ways, but deep emotion is rarely rushed. Real feelings move beneath the surface first. They grow in quiet reflection, in late-night thoughts, in moments of unexpected longing, in those silent pauses when a person suddenly realizes that no distraction, no busy day, and no passing connection has been able to replace the feeling you gave them. That realization does not always create instant action. Sometimes it creates inner struggle. They begin fighting what they feel because what they feel is powerful. They question themselves. They replay old moments. They remember the warmth in your energy, the softness in your presence, the spark in your spirit, and the calm strength you carried even when your heart was full. They begin noticing how deeply your connection touched them, not on the surface, but somewhere much deeper, somewhere harder to explain and impossible to forget. And when that awareness keeps growing, something inside them shifts. Fear begins turning into courage. Confusion begins turning into clarity. Distance begins turning into desire. What once felt easy to delay starts feeling urgent because hearts have a way of recognizing what matters, sometimes late but often deeply. And when someone truly understands your worth, standing still becomes painful, silence becomes heavy, waiting becomes unbearable. They start feeling pulled toward you, not just by attraction, but by emotional truth, the powerful understanding that life feels emptier without your presence in it. This is when the next step becomes closer than you think. It may begin quietly, a message that carries unexpected honesty, a sudden effort that feels different, a deeper conversation, a softer tone, a sincere attempt to reconnect in a way that feels real. Small moments can carry big meaning when the heart is involved, and beneath those moments is one truth. They are moving because losing you no longer feels acceptable to them. They are stepping forward because your value has become clear in a way it never was before. But here is the beautiful part. Your power was never in forcing that step. Your power was in becoming the kind of presence that could not be forgotten, in choosing peace over chasing, in choosing self-respect over emotional chaos, in remaining soft without becoming weak, warm without losing your standards, graceful without abandoning your worth. That quiet strength created the space for realization to grow. That feminine confidence created the spark that now pulls them closer. And if your heart has been sensing that something is shifting beneath the silence, trust that feeling. Not every quiet season is empty. Some quiet seasons are preparing movement. Some distance is creating clarity. Some silence is building courage inside the person who can no longer deny what you mean to them, because when a connection is real, when your presence has touched the soul, when your energy has left a lasting mark on the heart, time does not erase it. It deepens the realization, and eventually realization becomes action. The next step comes. The truth comes forward. And the person who feared losing you chooses to move closer, because life without you has started feeling like a loss too heavy to carry. So if you have been sitting in silence, wondering whether your absence is felt, wondering whether your energy still lingers in their heart, wondering whether the connection meant as much to them as it meant to you, hold this truth close. What is real does not disappear easily. Genuine connection leaves an imprint. It stays in quiet corners of memory. It returns in late-night thoughts. It echoes in moments of loneliness. And when your presence brought warmth, depth, peace, and a kind of softness that touched the soul, that feeling becomes very hard to replace. Never confuse temporary distance with permanent loss. Sometimes space is where realization grows strongest. Sometimes silence is where the heart finally speaks honestly. And sometimes the moment you stop chasing, stop overgiving, and start standing fully in your worth is the exact moment they begin realizing what life feels like without you in it. So keep your heart soft, but keep your standards strong. Protect your peace. Walk in quiet confidence. Let your value be felt through your presence, not explained through endless words. The right person will never need to be forced to recognize what is rare. Eventually, truth has a way of waking people up. And when it does, real effort follows. If this message touched something deep in your heart, write this in the comments. What is meant for me will choose me. Say it not as hope, but as belief. And if you know a woman who needs this reminder today, someone who has been doubting her worth, shrinking her light, or questioning her value, share this message with her, because sometimes one sentence at the right moment can change how a heart sees itself forever.